I'm Megan.
And I'm Lamorris.
And we are the Crawfords. We couldn't be more excited to invite you on a God-breathed journey with us. Whether you're single, married, in a dating relationship, or you just want to chat, we are talking to you. Covenant culture is living intentionally in every relationship in your life and throwing the ultimate pinky promise on top.
God cut a covenant with man first. This was his idea. A contract is written in ink, but a covenant is sealed in blood. Covenant culture is the kingdom way of living. So join us every Monday to make this way of living your way of living. Welcome back, Covenant Culture Podcast, episode 48.
48?
We're back.
Yeah.
We're back. And we are recording this post the election. And so we know there's a lot of beef, we would say tension, animosity in the air. And so we just wanted to record a quick episode. I don't think as Christians we shy away from the topic, but I do think there's a graceful way of doing things. And I guess I'll just share my personal struggle and then just tap in, babe, is that it's hard for me as a born again Christian to watch the rhetoric between other born again Christians. The world, I get it. People mad, they talking about being celibate, they're talking about cutting their hair off. Okay, I get it. But
why are they cutting their hair off?
It's like they're like staging a protest, mainly women. Yeah, mainly women protesting Trump's win.
Okay. And now please forgive me that I've already started laughing, but I just didn't know that. And I was like, what possibly could a hair have to do with anything? Okay, I'm just to that.
Yeah. So I think my personal struggle is just the born again believer.
Yeah.
How are we spewing such hate when the foundation of who we are should be agape, which go back and listen to previous episodes. We walked through agape.
Yeah.
And so
that was a timely
series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think that's truthfully, babe, that's been my personal struggle. Mm-hmm. Just that beef. It just breaks my heart. I have no expectation for the world to respond in a godly manner during an election. I would be naive to really think that the world would get agape during a heightened political season.
Yeah.
So that I'm not surprised of that. It doesn't hurt me. It may bother me, but I think what really gets me is Christians in the posts and I believe it breaks God's heart.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at. You know?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think we could probably all share that sentiment. I think it's interesting too because I've posted a lot of things on Instagram just discussing like what agape is and how to love during this time and how to listen. And we haven't said this is how we voted, this is who we are, this is what we believe. We haven't said that, which some people could say, well, that's ridiculous, you should. Mm-hmm. But our stance is a little different because we walk through so much life with so many individuals from so many different sides of the road, right? So we've discussed, is it worth having that kind of moment when I know there are people that will immediately just stop following, stop wanting a relationship. And that, for me, up for whatever side you stand on, is ridiculous, in my opinion, because I've seen so many people like, well, you can unfollow me, you can just stop. Okay, I get it, because it's social media and you get to pick that, and I understand that. But at the same time, that's not the heart of a believer.
Yeah.
It's to seek to understand. It's to want to have the conversations. It's to want to meet you where you are. And even if I can't agree with you, I can agree that we're going to love each other well and hear each other. Right? So a lot of the opposing thoughts that I've heard from that statement alone, which I'm not really sure how you could oppose agape love.
Yeah.
This is not our revelation. This is the Lord. But this is how people have responded to things like that. I've seen it. I think some of them have actually been towards me, and that's okay. I love you still. Okay. Doesn't change. But it's the truth, and agape does celebrate with the truth. And so with that being said, I know a big stance that's opposing the idea of loving people through it is that that's not actually love, because I'm not loving you if I disagree with how you feel.
Gotcha.
But love celebrates the truth.
Correct.
So for me, I'm like, no, I will always love and walk through how people feel and choose kindness and long suffering. And
Yeah.
But the thought is, well, you're not loving, so why is that my responsibility?
Yeah.
And to that, I would say that's exactly what agape is.
Correct.
Despite how you feel and despite what is fair. I mean, Jesus did that.
Correct. Yeah. And I just think, to your point of, there's a spiritual immaturity.
Right. Which is, Paul says, grow up.
Correct.
At the end of this agape, right? Mature.
And so we're in a climate where we're in a country where free speech is admirable and constitutional, but most people aren't mature enough to receive someone else's free speech.
Yeah.
So they respond emotionally.
Yeah.
Instead of recognizing you can't even have an opinion in another country. Mm-hmm. You can't post your personal opinion in another country. So if we look back to say, I'm grateful that I live in America, whether you think it's messed up or not, every American citizen has a right to free speech. So your free speech does not dictate my character as a believer.
Yeah.
And that's a mature love.
Right. And if we're actually discussing it, I know that people will disagree with this statement, but it's feelings being infringed upon. Mm-hmm. But people will disagree with that because they're like, no, it's a belief system. And hear me, there are I will have this conversation all day long. We've had this conversation with multiple people who I think they know how we voted. They're assuming they know, right? And so they're coming from a different angle. And really, I'm like, I'm going to always vote pro the Bible. Neither one of these candidates were the most godly humans you've ever seen or experienced. Yeah. But we also weren't voting for a pastor. We weren't voting for the best Christian.
Yeah.
We were voting aligning our biblical beliefs. And I've also read a lot that Democrats and Republicans seeing their thought process as believers where they sit in that. Mm-hmm. For me, when I think of pro-life, I don't think that a woman's right has been taken away. I think that's children's rights are taken away. That's when I think of that. Mm-hmm. Like we are alive and breathing because our mama didn't say, correct, this is what I'm doing.
You have a right to your opinion because your mom didn't abort you.
Yeah.
So why would we want that right for other children?
Yeah, and this is a very sensitive and recent topic, and if you do follow our Instagram or social media at all, you've seen, but we have a really dear friend that was very, very close, 6 days away from delivering her baby, and they lost their baby. And when this got brought up with someone who assumed that we had opposing thoughts, and again, we have a lot of strong opinions, but I haven't really said them. I'm going to always side with the Bible, period. Yeah. So when this conversation got brought up, the question was, well, didn't she have to abort her baby? I was like, hold on, what? This baby, she lost her baby in her womb. Yeah. No, she had to deliver a baby. She delivered it. Yeah. So when we started thinking and talking about all of those things, I think that's where stuff gets really cloudy. Yeah. Because I'm always going to be for a woman to survive and a baby to survive.
Correct. And I think the other issue, and I'm trying to articulate this the best of my ability, is we try to put a national understanding to personal situations. Yeah. And so my mother gave birth. She was pregnant at 13 by a 22-year-old. Mm-hmm. So because that was statutory rape, should she have aborted my brother? Well, if that would have took place, 1, I wouldn't have had a brother. Mm-hmm. 2, I wouldn't have a niece, 2 nieces, right? So we would take that situation and make a national debate about it, in which it was her personal choice. You understand what I'm saying? Now, statistically, when it comes to this issue and the right for a woman to choose, the instances in which are brought up are incest, rape, pregnancy that may be harmful to the child.
Yeah, which are terrible.
I saw a statistic yesterday that a doctor did 1,800 abortions in a year, and only 8 abortions fit those 3 situations I told you about. So out of 1,800 abortions, 8 were because of rape or incest. Out of the 8, something wrong with the child in the womb, or a health defect in the child.
Yeah.
8 out of 1,800 abortions.
Yeah.
So I think the narrative is we want to do whatever we want with our body because we want to do whatever we want with our body. Meaning, I want to have sex, I want to sleep around, but I don't want the consequences of having a child and being a mom. So because it's my right to choose, I'm going to kill the seed in my womb.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's really interesting too, because a lot of people, like people we love, we watch them come out and say certain things, and they have bigger platforms, and some people have been terrible towards them, even their response, because they're sharing what they believe, even though those same people are sharing whatever they want on their social media, right?
Right.
But we understand the responsibility of it and the weight of it, and that there are so many people involved and so many relationships involved that I do care to hear the other side.
Yeah.
I'm not too naive to think that I always know best.
Correct.
Right? I'm not. I think though, even when I hear that is, okay, that if that is said in those small percentages and that's true, a huge part, which I don't know if anyone saw this, but I'm sure many people did, but on CNN, this reporter came out and was like, forgive us. Because as reporters, it's our responsibility to report the truth, and we haven't. We have spun it. We have said what you want to hear, we think you want to hear. And he's like, this is in large a part of us painting a facade. Now this is all what I heard him say, right? This is not verbatim, but I thought that was so interesting because that's another piece.
Yeah.
Like, we can't be naive as believers to know that the world is going to want to put our race against another race.
Yeah.
It's going to put our culture
our beliefs
another culture.
Other beliefs. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not even saying beliefs. I'm just saying.
I just mean how you believe.
Right, but what I'm saying is like the flesh of it all.
Correct.
I'm gonna take. This is why Republicans should be mad at Democrats. This is why you should hate Republicans. This is why, right? All of that would be naive for us to think that there's not multiple factors in play there.
Yeah.
And that there's a real process. But what do we want? This is what I kept thinking when I was watching the election. Well, we want someone to believe in. People always cry out for a leader. We want our team to win.
Yeah.
We want to have. Look at the Super Bowl. Let's talk about the Chiefs. I have a lot to say about the Chiefs. Why? Not because I personally hate them, but I don't like the team.
Yeah.
And there are many people that also don't like the team. And we can't really tell you why. It's just because we know we've been good at what they've done.
Yeah.
And we want to beat them.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking of that as I was watching the election. Like, in general, the media has done a good job of making us believe and fight for our team.
Correct.
In quotes,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whether it's good, right, wrong, indifferent, there is no perfect political party. We have seen this. I'm sure you saw this meme going around, but actually, the lamb. What was it? It was for Jesus. Yes, the lamb is greater than a donkey and an elephant, right? And we know those things, but we also have a responsibility and a right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where we're falling in the balance, and that's where so many people get confused and bothered and unhinged, if you will. The unhinged is not appropriate.
Correct. Yes. And once again, it speaks to the immaturity of not being able to direct our emotions.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? It's like, you've seen these videos of these people going through other individuals' yards and pulling up their signs. Like, how infringing could you be to go on someone else's property to pull up a sign of a political candidate they believe in?
Well, it truly just shows you like a deeper root.
That's my point. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
You're mad at them honestly just because they differ.
Correct.
In their opinion, that's not right.
They didn't touch you. They didn't harm you. They didn't bring any danger to your life. You came on their property. So as
I've seen this
believers,
both ways
yeah,
also. Let's say that.
yeah,
Because clearly we're a black and white couple.
Yeah.
So you should be a Democrat and I should be a Republican.
Right.
That's not true anyway.
right,
But
right,
that's what the world has
Yeah.
painted. That's how society has looked.
Yeah.
How it's, again, been kind of written.
yeah,
So when that happens, we have to just decide and determine for ourselves, again, what do you actually believe? What? And dig into it. Because I saw something posted that was like, did you see this? And I'll just be careful because we're trying to be careful.
yeah,
But someone posted something that I know they believed it. And I understood why they believed it. And I had to seek it for myself because I'm like, is that true? And then I opened it, I started looking, and like, that is not what happened actually. There was a bigger reason. But the media knows how to give us just what we need to feed that belief system, that thought process.
yeah, yeah. And as believers, we must be very careful on stewarding our opinions.
Yeah.
And that's the other part. And once again, I just think this is very important for this podcast. We are believers in the Lord Jesus Christ, who is a king. He is the Lord of Lords.
Yeah.
So our bend will be to our king. Now, how we navigate ushering his kingdom on earth is how we steward our opinion, how we show love, how we encourage others, how we love the poor, the sick, the needy.
Yeah.
Like that's our mandate.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to these political pieces, that doesn't change because of how the world is reacting to some president who got voted in by the people, by the way. Right? So it's frustrating at the same time because, you know, we live by the adage, people are people, never be surprised at what people do. But it doesn't mean it isn't frustrating when you see them do it.
Right. Well, and just to Christians in general, we have the same mandate. So yes, I can be a Christian and be a politician. I'm not saying that those
Correct.
can't happen and work in tandem. But when was the last time you saw a fantastic believer
Yeah.
that you're like, wow, they are on fire for the Lord and they are running for whatever office?
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I know that it happens. But
Yeah.
that's what the point of this is saying when it doesn't, we are going to be faced with like, do you vote independent? You could, right?
Yeah.
And that would make sense. And honestly, for us, it might make a lot of sense. But at the end of the day, we really do want our vote to count. And I know
Yeah.
they say everyone's vote counts, and I know, but we all know that
Yeah.
at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's Democrat
Yeah.
and Republican.
Yeah, and recognize as believers as well, there's no accident that God had us born in America. So for us to be able to exercise an American right, which God has used kingdoms from the beginning of time to steward and to usher in his plans for the globe. So whatever the scripture says, it is God who promotes, it is God who put kings in place. So for whatever the reason is that the candidate won, as believers, we have to submit to the sovereignty of what God's doing. The beautiful part about it is that we, as believers, have been chosen to be born here to exercise a right to vote. So now it's how do we steward our heart to vote in a biblical way that will add value to a people who we're called to win anyway.
Yeah.
So the political stance or the political climate doesn't stop Matthew 28. Well, we ought to go into that same world and preach the gospel.
Right.
So that's what we need to focus on.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, because it's those same people. And that's why, because I know there are a lot of believers that are even outraged that it goes both ways. Sick of hearing pastors talk about politics and sick of hearing them not talk about them at all.
Correct.
Well, that's dicey. I get it for a lot of reasons. But when we know that our number one mandate as people in ministry is to love people and win them to Jesus and make disciples so they get to know him, what matters the most of that? It's their salvation.
Correct.
It's not how they voted.
That's right. That's
now,
right.
yes, it's a responsibility. Yes, we're responsible for what we choose and how we live and what we believe and why we think the way we do. Let your yes be yes. Your no be no. We know that. But we also can't be upset that pastors aren't saying all that they're thinking. Because I've watched other pastors say all that they're thinking. I'm like, hold on.
Yeah.
Back up a little because you're losing so many people. And what's it worth?
Yeah.
Was it worth their vote or was it worth their salvation?
Correct. I agree. We have in the church platformed political sides, which I don't agree with
Yeah.
at all. We're in the world, but not of the world. Now, I'm not saying as a pastor you don't inform your congregation on candidacy,
Yeah.
but I don't think that's done on a Sunday morning. I think it's done on a Monday night or
Discipleship.
Tuesday night
Yeah.
or Wednesday night.
While
when you
actually
can,
going through life
correct,
with people. Yeah.
and reaching out to born again people who are actually in that space that can add value to your people in a political season.
Yeah.
And not only that, the number one responsibility is to teach people how to research or to look, or you say something when people ask us about homeschooling our kids, about the difference between the two curriculums. Say that.
It's not the curriculum, it's the style.
The style,
method
yeah.
of teaching. So
Yeah.
there are different. There's like Charlotte Mason, there's Unschooled, there's all these kinds.
Just the point of,
I know,
yeah.
but I'm saying that that's important for the context. So there's all these options you have. Curriculum is different. This is the method that you're
Yeah.
choosing. And we have gone with the classical approach because we're teaching our kids how to think, not
like
what to think.
And that's what I want to get to.
Yeah.
We don't, as believers and leaders in God's church, we don't tell people what to think. We teach them how to think.
Yeah. So you can come to your own conclusion.
Right? And that's Acts
Correctly.
17:11.
Yeah.
And the Bereans searched the scriptures to see if what Paul was saying was true.
Yeah.
So have you researched the Republicans' agendas? Have you researched the Democrats' agenda? And have you come to a conclusion to say which one of these agendas will help our country promote at least a godly biblical standard? Now, the people who are even in those spaces might not be godly. And that's why even above that, our prayer life matters when it comes to this thing.
Yeah.
So we will read, we will raid, we will tear out signs, we'll be red in the face, and we will not pray. No. We're called to pray. And as I was thinking, when you look at, especially in the Old Testament, how many rulers that believers had to sit under who weren't godly.
Yeah.
But it did stop their mandate. Daniel still prayed. The 3 Hebrew boys still submitted to God.
Yeah.
So it's not about the character of the candidate, which in a sense, I get it.
Oh, I totally get it. Like,
I get it.
even seeing the do we want a felon?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead and take that off of, I understand that shouldn't
Personality.
even, but back to the character part. That matters.
Yes.
But also, if that's not what we are landing with, then we
Correct.
have to choose.
Correct.
Right?
It
There's
wasn't
a
like
lot
we
of
had 2 candidates where their moral character was higher, and we say, okay, go with the moral person. No. Both of these candidates had moral issues, right?
And there are disagreements in that too. So that's the interesting part, because as I've read all these things and listening to people and I've had a lot of conversations, not just saying this, and I haven't just had conversations with people that believe like I do or think like I do.
Right.
Had a lot of conversations, and I know at the end our goal is just we want the best and we want God's heart.
Yeah.
But we aren't choosing that based off of necessarily what we know as a fact.
Right.
We're choosing it based off of things we've seen or news outlets that we've chosen to go through.
Or because my grandma and uncles, they all vote Democrat. No matter who the candidate is or the character, we vote the party.
Yeah.
Then that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But you have a personal responsibility of learning to make the right vote. It's not just because of race of people vote this way, or that in this, men are inherently evil. All men. Period.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to vote in the best candidate because they're the best candidate. They're evil, all of them. Name Washington to Trump, even whatever. They're all evil. That's man's natural bend. That's why we got to preach the gospel.
Yeah.
People must be born again. So it's almost like the lesser of 2 evils.
Also care that they get saved.
Yeah.
Also care that they are also humans with a lot of responsibility on both sides. And I truly mean that.
Yeah.
That don't know better and they need to know better.
Yeah.
And are also so wrapped up in certain things. And I mean, this is such an ongoing conversation that it's hard, and that's why it feels defeating. And I think that's why people just land at this is, oh, well, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Instead of saying like, no, this situation, these are humans.
Yeah. They're
But,
people.
yeah, and yes, we want the best leader to lead us and represent us, but that's probably not going to happen if we are people that are in our word every day and praying every day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We have to just choose some things like I've shared, like pro-Israel, pro-life. Like these are important. Mm-hmm. There are so many.
Yeah.
But these are important to God, so they're important to us.
Correct. And if you don't have a correct biblical interpretation of who God is, then you won't understand that. Mm. So that's key too. Yeah. And we know that many people don't study their Bible, they don't read their Bible. So if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. Stand for the word, or you're going to fall for some political ideology that has nothing to do with God.
Yeah.
Or at least the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
And we can't forget this, that God is the one that's appointed every leader.
That's right.
So I'm not going to have an emotional, crazy mood swing and response when, someone I think shouldn't be in office. No, I'm going to submit that person to the Lord as well.
Yeah.
Right?
And that person being in office truthfully in your everyday life, they're not coming to your house.
Yeah.
They're not coming to help your marriage.
That's something the media has helped paint that's not true.
Yeah.
That this is affecting every one of your decisions.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, I wasn't trying to make fun or make light of. I just hadn't heard anything about cutting hair. But I thought of the scripture. That's why I laughed. The scripture about cutting hair and not adorning yourself. And I'm like, wait, what? Why are you repeating that? But those are the things that the media has done a good job agitating.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So what is the point of this now? We could have done this before, and we talked about doing it before. But our whole heart and motive was we're not into persuading people, not in that way. Our job is to persuade people and convince people of the truth and scripture.
Correct.
And this is a part of it, but it's not the biggest part of it.
Yeah.
It's a soul, heart, salvation issue. So now this is more of like a pleading with people in general. I don't care what side of the road you're on. I have seen both hateful, both harming.
Yeah.
What's the point? Like, we have to know better as believers that you can't post whatever you want. You can't say whatever you want. You can't respond however you want.
Yeah.
Because it's your fruit and it matters.
That's the truth. Because remember, that post, that fruit is going to affect someone else.
Yeah.
And so we have to take into account our behavior, our words, our platforms.
Yeah.
Because it affects other people.
And this is the difference of love. This is the problem with love, because many of us as believers have heard a lot of people preach on love, but not agape.
Yeah.
Just preached on love. And we were discussing this the other day, that I think this might be one of my best iterations of what agape is. A slice of pizza. It's my favorite food. Okay? If that slice were agape, I have experienced so many other kinds of love. They've been decoys. They've been not the right one, right? And then I've actually experienced, this is what it's supposed to taste like. This is what it's supposed to be. Once you taste that, that should be the desire, because now you've seen that it's good. You know that it's good. Yeah. It's the right way. So a lot of us are loving, but we're loving in our own strength. Yeah. We're not loving in the agape way, which is it's the highest form. It's a sacrificial love. It's a love without, I don't care how you voted, I still love you because I don't want you to go to hell. I mean, some of these people I feel like are damning people to hell by the way they're saying things because of their feelings of an election. Yeah. Like we're missing, and I know Satan loves it. He's thriving in it too. Oh yeah, he thrives in chaos. And so we have to know, like, okay, this agape, this love, it doesn't wear out. It's not loving your shoes. Those wear out. You outgrow them. You don't outgrow people. You can't outgrow love. You can't tire of that. You can, but not as a believer. Yeah. So that is our mandate now. That is our decision of saying these things now, because it's not, we want you to vote this way, we want you to believe this way. It doesn't matter what we shared, to be honest. At the end of the day, people are going to do whatever they want. Yeah. Right? If you're actually seeking to understand and you even have questions about this, we would have those conversations. We already have been. But that's really usually not people's motive. They might come that way, but they're saying all the things. Yeah,
they're not coming to seek to understand.
Yeah.
They're coming to insert their opinion.
Yes, and tell you why you're wrong.
Yeah. Kev, you got a question?
Yeah, so to kind of go along with that and the statement of you can't post whatever you want, you can't say whatever you want, should Christians engage in political discussions with, let's say it's someone they don't share the same beliefs with? Should we do that to non-believers? And if not, should we do it to Christians? Should we do it with Christians if it's like a, I don't know, in a way to correct them almost, to like, maybe they're just acting out of pocket, like saying whatever they want, doing whatever they want. So should we do it with non-believers? Should we do it with Christians?
Yeah.
How do we go about that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's dicey, but
I think if it's in your circle and it's people that's willing to dialogue, to have conversations, then I think that's fine. The end of that conversation should be to display agape, and if they're unbeliever, to tell them the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now, if you're not mature enough, if your emotions lead your life, if you don't understand God's heart contained in these areas, then you probably shouldn't engage in conversations, because it's going to lead to a place of arguing, demeaning, talking down to, because that's the natural bend of a heart.
I almost agree with all of
makes
that,
sense.
except for why unbelievers.
Well, because it might be a coworker. It just depends on the situation. As a believer, right? If it's a coworker or a neighbor,
someone you're doing life with,
that's what I'm saying.
I know.
That's why I said in your circle.
You did, but then I also thought, this is why I had a different thought process too. I know that there are people that are influential in my life that if I felt led, I would still reach out, even if we're not doing life together. I think the difference as a believer.
But you've had at least some type of relationship with them. It's not some random person out the blue.
Maybe, or maybe it's someone you follow that is it's like, you know, they love Jesus and they're saying all these things that are, like he said, out of pocket. Like, where are you coming from? I don't think that that's wrong to say something. It's what you say, how you say it, right? But as far as unbelievers, I think that should only be because actually in other countries, we've talked about this before, but discipleship is done differently than we do it in America. They teach people the ways of Jesus and then invite them to follow Jesus, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because here we are, like, invite Jesus into your heart. He does. And then you're like, whoa, I have to do this, and this. I can't do that, and that. That is a form of discipling. And so I think of that when it comes to unbelievers. Like, they don't have ears to hear. Yeah,
no, they don't. And that's why, to your question, Kevin, if they're in your circle, a neighbor, employee, someone you see at the gym, people that's actually kind of you have access to and they want to engage you, they know you're a believer. They know you follow the ways of Christ, and they don't, and they want to engage. I think it's worth leaning into the conversation if you're spiritually and emotionally.
Yeah, and I would just, again, piggyback on that and say, and if you're the one engaging, I don't think it'd be advisable to engage someone that's not an unbeliever. But if you did want to go to someone that's not like you just talked to, or that knows your life, or you went to high school with, or wherever, and this is a person that has a major platform, you can still invite yourself into the conversation because they're having it, but it's just a way of doing it.
Yeah. Oh, I only ask that because I see a lot of my friends that are Christians, and they'll just like post whatever they want and just say not like outlandish things, but just like it's kind of obvious that they care more about a political opponent than they do about Jesus. So like, I don't know, it's just like frustrating when they're posting all this when the goal is to bring people to Jesus, but then some people who don't know Jesus can't separate a political belief versus Jesus, so then it just like alienates them from believing.
Yeah, and that's why you see unbelievers make blanket statements, well, Christians plural, all these Christians, or all. It's because they haven't had someone in their circle that can really articulate the scriptures or engage in conversation, so they make blanket statements. And that's hard to do, especially social media, because that seems kind of the way of life in this culture. But as believers, we have to stick to the way God does things, not the way culture does. We engage culture, but we don't do it how they do it. We do it the way the kingdom values it. That's all. It always starts with love, agape, and it ends with agape. Right?
Yeah.
So,
And that's what we're saying. You have to weigh the fruit too, right? Like, we know our fruit matters so much. What is fruitful? And that's why a lot of these conversations aren't fruitful. You're not actually having a real conversation. You're fighting with one another. That's not fruitful.
Correct.
So we know what the word says about that. If you're fighting with each other, at the end of the day, nothing's getting solved. You're just mad. And it's actually stirring strife and anger and unkindness and bitterness and resentment and all the things that he doesn't want.
opposite of agape.
Yeah, rotten fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you got enough for
It's
test?
40 minutes. So I don't know if we want to keep going to a part 2 or if this will be 2 parts or what.
It's up to you.
You have any more questions?
Do I have any more questions? I said let's just go around table, say who we voted for and why.
So we just hope that this was at least informal. We wanted to share our heart a little bit. Once again, we didn't want to engage in this podcast on some unfruitful things,
Yeah.
but we did want to share our heart because as believers, we don't shy away from it. We just wait for God to give us wisdom on how to engage it. So we just pray that this was encouraging, informal. We pray we didn't offend anyone. If you did, we pray it was from the scriptures, not from us.
Also, I've already said this, but we'll talk about it. We've had a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
But it really hasn't been anything we started.
No.
Because, to be honest, most of the conversations I've seen that I would have wanted to say something or have made me angry are people that I know I can't go to.
Yeah.
Because there's no
It'd be a waste of words.
conversation there.
Yeah. Your words would hit a brick wall. But we love each of you. We're grateful that you engage with our podcast. We're grateful for your prayers of our ministry, your support of our ministry. And we'll see you next time. Give you some. Hey. We'll see you. Peace.
Once again, we are so thankful that you would follow along with us. If Covenant Culture has been a blessing to you in any way, would you prayerfully consider partnering with us to take this message around the world?
There are 4 ways you can partner with us. Number 1, please pray. We covet your prayers. Number 2, give a one-time gift. Number 3, become a culture changer by your monthly financial commitment of $7 a month. And number 4, share our podcast with friends and family.
You can go right to our website, www.covenantcultureministries.com, and look for the green Give tab. We truly cannot say thank you enough for your support.
God started humanity with a marriage, and He is going to end it with one.